After an extremely long wait, one of my favorite video game franchises finally came out with their newest installment. Of course, as the title of the video would tell you, Killing Floor 3. Killing Floor is a wave-based first-person shooter developed by Tripwire Interactive that began its journey all the way back in 2005 as a mod, which then had its own full release in 2009 and quickly became the top-selling game on Steam during its time, winning multiple awards. As you could guess, with a game with that kind of success came the sequel, Killing Floor 2, in 2016. Killing Floor 2 expanded on the amazing foundation set from the original, but added tons of more content with new perks, weapons, maps, seasonal events, and of course the implementation of the meat system that gave the game its awesome gory, visceral look. Which then now brings us to Killing Floor 3 that released July 24th, and wow, is it interesting. But before we get into the negatives, let me start with where Killing Floor 3 succeeds, as unlike other people's opinions, there are still some positives that this game has. You can't talk about Killing Floor without talking about its insane gore, and Killing Floor 3 absolutely delivers. The Meat 2.0 system, as they call it, is not just for marketing, it's a genuine evolution of the fantastic original system. Seeing the limb dismemberment feels incredibly satisfying, from an explosive headshot turning a clot into red mist, to a well-placed shotgun blast tearing a Scrake in half. The persistence of blood on the environment and the way body parts react to explosions and impacts is simply unmatched and is exactly what Killing Floor is all about. A Killing Floor game is only as good as its zeds, and KF3 introduces a fresh redesign of its classic specimen to fit the new high-tech atmosphere that's present. Now, I'm really split on if I like the new designs or not. Although I love the new look, we have moved well past the scary horror aspect that was present in the old games for this new over-the-top technological mutation look. But aside from the classic zeds, there are some new entries into the game, which are pretty boring variants of existing enemies. But there are 3 new bosses, being the Queen Crawler, the Chimera, and the Impaler. But as far as bosses go, the Queen Crawler and the Chimera are very uninspired and incredibly boring to fight. The Impaler, however, is pretty fun to fight as it makes you fight 3 of them, and they are always moving and attacking, which can split your team up, making it easier for you to die, which I enjoy the creativity that went into the Impaler, and hope the new bosses that get added are unique with a good challenge on all difficulty. The core gunplay in Killing Floor 3 is pretty satisfying. Weapons feel weighty, impactful, and the sound design is pretty good too. But the real game changer here is the weapon mod system. This isn't just about slapping on a scope, you can customize almost every aspect of your weapon. We're talking about scopes, different barrel types that alter recoil or damage, magazines that change reload speed and capacity, and even ammunition types that inflict elemental damage like electric or incendiary. This allows for a new level of personalization on weapons we have yet to see in the series. The choice is yours, and it truly encourages experimentation with your loadouts. I know some people don't like the create a class style system, but I feel like it adds another level of gameplay that allows you to experiment with different mods. Now, I will say the crafting portion feels very grindy, as after every match you only earn a handful of resources, especially since after you craft an item, you still need to upgrade those parts to make the most of its performance. The one thing Killing Floor has stayed consistent with is evolving the movement system, which is very welcomed, like when Killing Floor 2 introduced sprinting. The movement feels significantly more fluid. The addition of sliding and mantling over things allows for much more dynamic combat, and allows you to save yourself if you get stuck in a bad situation. The Zeds have also learned some new tricks. They can now climb, jump, and exhibit far more unpredictable movement, meaning those old camping spots might not be as safe as they once were. It keeps you constantly on the move and adds a fantastic layer of intensity. Now, no game is perfect, and Killing Floor 3 is especially not that, with various issues and implementations that make me scratch my head, wondering how far we have lost the plot, which is not just a Killing Floor issue, but a modern gaming issue in its entirety. But let's address the biggest issue, being performance. While the game looks stunning thanks to the Unreal Engine 5, it's quite demanding. On my pretty average spec PC, I can run the game with medium to high settings and stay around under 80 FPS. But I've experienced noticeable frame drops during Z time moments, and especially on certain maps, I've experienced frame drops and stutters. There is also this crash that happens called GPU crash dump that seems no matter what you do will happen randomly and is incredibly a massive pain to deal with. But while DLSS certainly helps, the base optimization seems to need more work. This can definitely detract from the otherwise smooth gameplay, and it's something the developers absolutely need to prioritize in post-launch patches. Now, I get that Unreal Engine 5 is incredibly demanding, but I've played other games on this engine that do pretty well with optimization. And for a game that many of us have been anticipating for years, the initial content offering feels a touch on the lighter side compared to Killing Floor 2's incredibly robust state. At launch, we have 8 maps, being Army Depot, City Streets, Convoy, Horizon Factory, Offices, R&D Lab, Radar Station, and Sewer. There are 6 specialists which are tied to individual characters, which is something Tripwire have said will be going back to the old model, where you can be whatever perk with whatever character you want. But as of launch, you can play as Commando, Firebug, Engineer, Sharpshooter, Medic, and a new perk called Ninja. That means compared to Killing Floor 2, we get 4 less perks to play as, which is crazy to me how we get less content on launch. While each map is well designed and the weapon modding adds replayability, veterans of Killing Floor who are used to its expansive roster of weapons, maps, and events might find themselves running out of novelty a bit quicker. The perk system has seen a significant overhaul. Instead of the linear leveling of KF2, we now have perk specialists, with branching skill trees that unlock abilities and enhance proficiencies as you use them. While the concept of specialists having ultimate abilities is cool, some of the depth and granular choice of KF2's individual perk leveling feels absent. It's less about choosing specific skills every 5 levels, and more about unlocking tiers of buffs. It's certainly more streamlined, but whether it offers the same long-term progression and unique build diversity as its predecessor is debatable. And the narrative in Killing Floor 3 is once again largely background filler. We're part of Nightfall fighting Horzine, and the new Stronghold hub where you select missions and customize gear is arguably a waste of resources, as there's zero benefit to having it when every menu can just be accessed when you press tab instead of running around just to upgrade a gun. The overall atmosphere feels less like the gritty, intense horror of the earlier games and more like a slick, high-budget action shooter. While the Zeds are terrifying, the environmental storytelling and pervasive sense of dread from Killing Floor 1 or even Killing Floor 2's more desolate maps feel incredibly diminished. It's a visual spectacle, but perhaps sacrifices a bit of the chilling ambiance. I'll let you watch clips I've recorded from all 3 of the games, and tell me which one has the best atmosphere.
Your warm-up. Gotcha. Stick it in your gum. Now piss off. Quiet your noise, please. You fat fuck.
Now, I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like we have incredibly downgraded from an almost 20-year-old game because I think it's completely laughable. Killing Floor 3 does feature a battle pass system called the Supply Pass, which if you have played Helldivers 2, it is the exact same system, which I don't hate as it lets you get free rewards and also allows you to pay for the premium pass that lets you receive all the additional rewards. There is an in-game cosmetic store that lets you purchase cosmetics in a revolving storefront that changes every week. While this is standard practice in modern games, the initial character customization options feel extremely limited outside of these paid avenues. So for a full price title, it is something you should be aware of if you like to extensively personalize your character. Now only time will tell how bad it could really get, but if you look at Killing Floor 2, it does seem like we might be in for a hell of a ride. So with all of the ups and downs following the launch of Killing Floor 3, here is my final verdict. Now I'm a massive Killing Floor fan, but I do think that this is easily the worst in the entire trilogy. But I do think it's pretty fun, even though it's somewhat unpolished. The Killing Floor formula will always be excellent, and this installment is unfortunately the result of modern gaming, where everything is following trends, and being unique is frowned upon by these idiotic corporate suits. The core gunplay is incredible, the new Gore system is truly next gen, and the added movement options makes combat feel incredibly dynamic, and the quality of life has definitely been improved. The weapon modding is a standout feature that adds immense depth to loadout customization, and adds another sense of progression that is welcomed in my book. However, as the mixed reception indicates, the game is clearly being launched as a game-as-a-service model we are incredibly familiar with. The current performance issues are the biggest hurdle, and the initial content offering, while solid, leaves me wanting a whole lot more. It does feel like a game that's 80% there at launch, with the remaining 20% to be polished and filled out in the next coming months and years. If you are a longtime Killing Floor fan, you'll find a lot to love here, but be prepared for some optimization issues and the knowledge that more content is definitely on the horizon. If you're new to the series and looking for a co-op PvE shooter with incredible gore and satisfying gunplay, Killing Floor 3 might not be what I suggest at this time, and I'd suggest playing Killing Floor 2 as it holds the most content and replayability in the entire franchise. Hopefully after multiple content updates, I'll be able to recommend this game, but if you are thinking of buying Killing Floor 3, I'll say go for it as long as you're willing to see it through its journey just as I will. But if you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and leave a like and comment below your thoughts on Killing Floor 3 and if you will be getting the game. Also, I'm sorry for not uploading for over a month. There just hasn't been much that I wanted to cover on the channel, but I do appreciate the support you guys have been showing while I've been gone. But if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more content in the future, as I have a good amount of videos ready to be made and I don't want you to miss out on them. But I'll see you guys in the next one.